Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever you call it, Jesus is the reason for the season. Every season should be about Jesus Christ. So Merry Christ Mass. Bearing that in mind, seasonally, people battle with depression, battle with suicidal tendencies, and even the thought of death and death thoughts and burying loved ones. But I want you to remember that the joy of the Lord is your strength. Draw your strength from the Word, from joyful songs, joyful activities, poetry, plays, dramas, anything that would make it for a joyful experience, joyful laughing times with family, going to movies, a Christ Mass, Christmas dinner, praying, singing, caroling, whatever will bring joy that will strengthen you during this season and help you win the battle over seasonal depression and even the death or departure of loved ones. I want you to hear joy bells ringing. I want you to bring joy to others in this season. Make it a time of giving, physically, giving spiritually, giving emotionally. It is hard to be selfish when you are giving. Especially remember this: affect your season rather than allowing your season to affect you. Do not be affected by what's in the spirit realm, the gloom, the busyness of shopping, other individuals grieving the loss of loved ones. Be the reason for the season. Exemplify Christ. Have a great season. I hope that you'll glean from this broadcast. It's about the season. You're in your winning season. This is a season that we're finishing strong and headed toward a great new year.
Oh my God can do anything more than we can ask or think, more than we can imagine in our wildest dreams. Thank you, Lord, by your blood I have been redeemed, and in your mercy you kept me. Wouldn't let my enemies triumph over me to make me a testimony.
So this is our winning season. This is a prelude to what I'm going to be talking about on Sunday, the preceding word. What did God say before the storm, before the hurricane? What did he say before all of this happened? You have to do warfare with the preceding word, because the enemy will always bring up something later on to distract you, to make you feel defeated. So you have to look back and say, what was hidden from me wasn't hidden from God. What did he say before I saw this? And the God that sees you, what did God say before I saw? Because he saw it, you just didn't see it. So tonight, we hopefully you will not flake out on me, or I won't use the other word that young people use, dip on me, when we're interacting and using our gifts, because I like to exercise the gifts to stretch them out. But starting with Genesis, the 15th chapter for our lesson tonight. Genesis, the 15th chapter, and the first verse. After this, and I'm reading from the NIV. After this, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision. The word of the Lord came to him in images in his mind, or pictures in his mind, sometimes followed with a conversation. The word of the Lord came to him with an image. It came through an image. That's a vision, or a picture in his mind. That's a vision. When I asked a child, little Lindsay, who's 4 years old, I had a vision. I said, what's a vision? I had this picture in my mind. I thought, what an adequate description of vision. God actually gave him a vision. So Abraham had a vision. And in the image in his mind, or the picture in his mind, there was a conversation. Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward. The first thing that stood out to me is after this. This is important to the vision. This may be important to the vision that you had, the prophecy you received, the word of knowledge, the miracle, the revelatory information that God gave you. After this. What is after this? My first thought was after this. So fear came after the trauma. Abram experienced the trauma. What was the trauma? Real quickly, just give you a quick overview because we're not dissecting or exegesing the text tonight. This is more about gifts and exercising your gift and making you prophetically in tune with the season that you're in. The fears that you've encountered came after what? That's your food for thought tonight. Fears that you've been battling in this season came after what? Was it after a trauma? Was it after a hurricane? Was it after an earthquake? Was it after fires? Was it after floods? All over the United States, there were floods happening, and some people never encountered any type of fear until after that flood. They didn't have a fear until after a hurricane. We have northerners that never encountered fear, and there are some individuals sold their house and moved and left the state because they were from the north. This was the first hurricane that they encountered, and therefore after the hurricane there was fear. After Hurricane Michael, there were some people now fearing what would they do financially, how would they handle this, where would they stay if this hotel is booked out. The fears that came up, what happens if my home is not ready at this time, what happens if I don't get enough money to restore my home. All of these fears. How do I go on from here? There are some individuals that literally died in various places of a heart attack or stroke after the hurricane. The trauma from the hurricane they ended up, they passed or had the heart attack as a result of their fears. Earthquake in Alaska recently, I'm sure that there are various individuals after that earthquake, they had some panic attacks. They had needed counseling for the trauma. So I want you to make this very prophetic for you tonight, those that are watching by Periscope and those that are watching by Facebook Live. After what? Your fear came after what? And look back at what was the vision. What image did God give you in your mind that would counteract that fear? What message did he give you that would bring faith instead of fear? So if you can look within, look backwards, look within your spirit, and look out of the natural realm. There are individuals, fear came when they looked at that disaster. They looked at the destruction as a result of the hurricane, and it brought fear. But what you were looking at, if you can look away from what you're looking at in the natural and look at the image in your mind that God gave you of where you would be in this season, what you would be doing in this season, and not look at the natural circumstances. Your faith, the image, the vision, the word of knowledge, the miracle, all of those things can alter your mindset and help you to be successful. So your gifts will empower you. Your gifts will enable you. Your gifts will help other individuals if you can look past the natural and look into the spiritual. You'll download that word of knowledge, word of wisdom, and even the footsteps of the righteous are guided by the Lord. She'll hear it, and she'll know what you meant by it. Some dreams she'll hear, she'll have to pray on it a couple of days. Some dreams she'll pray on it over the months. And at the right time, the right person will come to her, and God, you'll give her interpretation that will guide them in the direction you want them to go in. The masses. Lord, her dream is about the masses. There are people that she's going to train. She's going to impart. I thank you for the activation, the impartation. Impartation now. In the name of Jesus, that level is even greater. She'll hear it and she'll know it. And instantly, it will unlock things that have been hidden for other individuals. She'll hear it and unlock it in children and teens and in adults. and open more doors for her, because that spirit that was upon Joseph to dream and to interpret dreams will also be on her, God. And I thank you for the dreams getting even sharper and greater in him, in the name of Jesus. Accelerating what you've been doing on the inside of him now, in Jesus' name. Image in your mind, and you can create an image by looking back over your prophecies. And I'm giving you an opportunity to think over certain fears that arose in this season. What was it you were looking at and thinking about? And give you an opportunity to go back in your mind and say, what did the Lord say about this before I knew about it? What did he say that actually introduced me to this season or armed me for this season? And I didn't know I was being armed. I was playing the song over and over, It's My Winning Season, because I remembered, first of all, today the song came to me, and I remembered around this time last year was our appreciation services, and one of our elders, Destiny Young, played that song and had the whole church and all of the visitors to surround us and say, it's my winning season, and everybody connected to me win, it's my winning season. And then in October, a few days, our women's conference was October 4th through the 6th, I think. 4th through the 6th. And if you missed that, you can go back and watch it on my YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you're watching, like me on Facebook. I got enough haters. I need some likers. So please like me, made up a word. But in October, during our women's conference, as I was getting up to go to the airport to fly to Atlanta, as soon as I opened my eyes and my feet hit the floor, the first thing I heard, it's your winning season. It's your winning season. But it started out with the enemy came up against your children. And at first, it alarmed me. Being a mother and a helicopter mom, and all of them are adults, but I'm that type mom and grandmother. Instantly, I thought, oh God, what is going to happen to my children? And as I'm thinking that, I heard, you will win. You will win.
You will win.
So that comforted me. What I was seeing brought fear, my children. But the preceding word, you will win, he was already speaking to me before I created an image in my mind of what could happen before the fear came. I entered the conference and opened the women's conference. I heard it again. I called my daughter up beside me, and I said, and she's not here tonight, but I've got my niece. I said, sing that song, the part that says, the enemy came up against.
The enemy came up against your home. The enemy came up against your children. The enemy came up against your health. The enemy came up against your finances. But you will win. You will win.
Every one of those areas the enemy came up against. Finances, health, children, all of those things. Home, my home, part of it was destroyed during a hurricane. Finances, my children came under attack. Devon's half of her home was destroyed because of the hurricane. Finances, on down the line. But the preceding word was, I will win. So having to go and deal with the insurance adjusters, having to deal with claim adjusters, dealing with the engineers, dealing with the contractors, I have to fight with the preceding word rather than look at the disaster.
Yeah.
Instead of looking at, is this how much the insurance company is giving? Will this cover the cost? I had to use the prophetic word that went before me in the form of a song, and that's the same thing I'm telling you if you're watching by Periscope, if you're watching by Facebook Live, or if you're in the class tonight. What was the preceding word before your health came under attack? Before your home, before your children, your family, your finances? What did the Lord say to you? What was hidden from you was not hidden from him. So he was arming you for battle, and he was really predicting the outcome. you will win. Now I want you to individualize it. What are the circumstances going on in your life today that God had already addressed last month? And if you look back, you'll be able to seize the victory today. What went on? Abram, his nephew Lot was taken by 4 kings after Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. They came through and they took Lot and took his possessions and took his family. Abram received the news that your nephew has been taken, and this is the nephew that he left with. And so he cared enough to bring him with him when he left where God told him to lead and go to a place that I'll show you. So of course he's up in arms. Nephew, imagine your destiny nephew. Someone says they're taken. I'm immediately getting an army of people together. Let's go get them back. Let's go get little Destiny back. Abram is saying, let's go get them back. And he gets over 300 armed, trained men that he knows loyal to him. He goes and get them back and get the possession back. But I thought it was so interesting. That was in the 14th chapter. He goes against these 4 kings, goes to battle, gets everything back. And you would think once he gets back, he's at ease and he relaxes. But instead, when he gets back, God has to tell him, fear not. The vision comes, the word comes, at a time that you would think there is no anxiety. Fear comes when it's over, after the hurricane. You would think people would be relaxed and at ease, but then the fear comes afterwards. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh my God, how am I going to pay for this? Oh my God, will we be able to rebuild from this? After the earthquake, I've never been in an earthquake, but I imagine that's very traumatic, the magnitude of that earthquake in Alaska. You know, should I relocate? So where normally you would think the fear has subsided, the fear comes after you look and see, I made it through all of this, and oh my God, how did I make it through this? Abram needs to hear from God, fear not, and for God to remind him of who he is. I'm your shield and your exceeding great reward. What is it that it's over, but you're impacted by it, and you're dealing with fear? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? What if this doesn't happen? That God has to remind you of who you are to him. I'm your shield, your protector, your exceeding great reward. I'm your paycheck. I'll take care of you. I'm your financial security. And I feel prophetically that I'm talking to those that are watching through social media. I'm talking to those in the room. The fears that have gripped you, that God is trying to remind you tonight. Look back at what I said to you before this happened. And it's over, but your fear is more intense than it was when it was happening. So fight with, what did I say? Who are you to me? So I hope that I was talking long enough to give the class a chance to interact. Many of you went places in your mind, so I know you're looking at something. That image in your mind, that picture in your mind. What is it you're looking at, Derek? That picture in your mind, that image in your mind. What is it you're looking at, Nikki, Leah? That image, that picture in your mind of what brought fear. And God, what are you going to do about this? And what if you don't do that? What is it that he said that you're not seizing the victory with? And this is not criticizing you or condemning you. It's food for thought. It's making you think, wait a minute, he already addressed this, and I didn't know. While I'm operating in fear, he has addressed this. Thanks, God. Heartbreak. You're young, but you've had men that you trusted, that they were not trustworthy. You know, that they had all the right words, the right lines, but they were players. And you just didn't see it until it was too late. And that's what has really branded you. Yeah. And I feel this branding iron that might, I think what those fraternities, what is it, the Q-dogs,
Yeah,
where they would
Q-dogs,
use those branding irons. Are you familiar with those fraternities? Like that, those where they brand that?
The horses.
Yes, in the same way. So with the branding, so it has branded you. So it makes it hard for you to trust, and it's cause some conflict within your mind and within your body, that you battle with that because of the hurt that you experience. So it makes you afraid to show the real you to people because you're afraid that they'll damage the real you. So it's like this shield or this wall that you hold up that I'll never let them get in to see the real me because I'm not going to be devastated like that again. I'm not going to be hurt like that again.
Like I was on a high, a spiritual high, and God was dealing with me with my ears, spiritually, my spiritual sense of hearing, that became to open up, and other things in my vision began to get clearer for other things that He was bringing to me, and then all of a sudden, I get mold and mildew in the bedroom.
Okay.
Then from that point on, I get water all in the bedroom. I have to throw the furniture out. And then the utility people charging me $1,000 because the water heater went berserk. And then something else happened. And then it just went on and on and on. And then a hip thing started happening. And I was like, well, wait a minute, God. And then I had a dream where He was showing me I was fixing to prosper. I saw this check that I opened up. And I said, oh, this, it's $10,000 check and all of this. And then all of a sudden, it was like I'm having to go through different other things. I said, well, wait a minute, I was right here. It looked like I couldn't get back to where He had me because things started happening in the natural, and I couldn't get back to the spiritual part that I was enjoying and so good. I was getting excited about it, from what He was doing in me. And then this happened, and then you have people in the ministry, and I said, well, my God, is this gonna ever stop? I said, God, you promised, and I had to go back in the scripture and say that you said that you take care of the widow, and I opened up my green book and I said, you said this, and then I was listening to the prophecy. I said, you said this to Pastor Bird, you said this to the other prophet, and this and that. And I was saying, well, when is this going to come to an end? And then one thing left to the other. You can't get this other money that was coming in. It just looked like prosperity was over here and over there, and then looked like I couldn't get to either one because so much was going naturally was happening.
Right.
And it was like a distraction. And then I was like, hey, I got to refocus. And then at the women's conference, I began to refocus to keep my eyes on what He wanted me to do at this moment, and that was to minister to the ladies, minister to other widows and things of that nature. And that it took my eyes began not to look at the natural and start refocusing where He was taking me, that I must do, that He purpose for me.
Right.
So,
I'm going to go back to 2015.
okay.
Only because up until that point, I think that was a critical change in my life. I was on cloud 9. Everything was great. The Lord spoke and said how I will be in private practice, and I will be working with young people and with women, and I'll be writing these books and all this stuff. And great, I wrote my first book, and I'm working with women in the prison. And then I wanted to get out of the prison system, but they kicked me out and sent me to a man's prison.
Kicked you out of prison working with the women.
Working with women.
So you were dropped out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah, into the fire.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, maybe this is just a short time. I don't have to worry about this. But in order for me to be in private practice or be able to launch out on my own, I have to be licensed in the state of Florida. But every time I took the exam, I did not pass. And when I came close, I missed it by 4 points. So I'm sitting here like, okay, when is it supposed to happen? Because I'm tired of shelling out all this money, for taking this exam. But then in 2015, I got this diagnosis that just changed my whole entire life. Because now I'm like, now I can't get married. Now I can't have no children. How am I going to be able to take care of myself medically?
And those were your fears.
So those were my fears. Like, oh my God, no one's going to want me now. So I went through all this stuff. And then I was sent away where I had to travel like an hour and a half just to get to work. When I was more comfortable at home where I only had like a 20-minute drive. So being on the road was damaging my body even more, and then starting all this treatment, and then you don't know how your body's responding. So I just went through it, and I'm trying to figure out. You said all this, and I don't see it. So
his preceding word just had you hyped it, and
'cause I was
before
doing
you saw all the disastrous
I was doing
things.
the darn thing.
I love it. Say that again. You were what?
Doing the darn thing. I mean, I was literally enjoying it. I was working in the community. I was working with young people. I was working with women dealing with the, emotional trauma, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, which is what I love to deal with. So I was doing all that. Now I'm in a man's prison. They don't want to hear all that. They don't want. So now I'm in a place where I'm still questioning God. God, you said I was going to be married. You said I was going to have children. Not in my private practice. I hadn't passed my exam because there were so many things in life that just happened that just took me off track to where it's like, hello, like, did you miss something or did I miss something? So now the way as you said, the gift, because I'm constantly, the emotional part, talking to myself, doing therapy with myself all the time, where I have to constantly remind myself, okay, no, this is why you're going through this. This is how you do, doing therapy and then talking to other people. But one thing that I have at my house that I've had for years is a picture of me with the words on it that says, God has not forgotten about me. So I have that sitting on my table. I have it sitting in my bedroom. So every time I look at it, it reminds me, okay, God has not forgotten about me. So I can say, okay, God, now you said you this, so you make sure you don't forget. Because it's been about 5-6 years going on.
I'm praying that you were really encouraged, motivated. You felt the joy. You were picked up, elevated, exalted by hearing the testimonies of some of the students and also hearing about the season that we're in. It's a winning season, regardless of how it looks. Hopefully you gleamed, or your takeaway is, I win. See you next year. Thank you for watching. Let the prophet speak. Join us as we do the year in review so that we can start our new year celebrating Christ.